The orbital station drifted in the black like a coffin on forgotten tides. Inside, Colonel Aric Voss stood at the observation window, arms crossed, jaw clenched, eyes locked on the streaking lights of the retreating fleets. Valerie cruisers there, pale hulls shining like silver wounds. Dren battlecraft, angular and bristling with unspent firepower. Even Asari scout ships, once sworn to Earth's defense, gone. They slipped into fold space one by one, blinking out like dying stars. Abandonment. Didn't scream. It whispered that the war room behind him was silent except for the low, static hum of the last diplomatic feed. A translucent blue hulla hovered in the center of the room, flickering every few seconds as if even the system couldn't bear to keep. The message alive. Solon Revik's voice oozed through the speakers, smooth and polished like oil on cold metal. "We mourn Earth's fate," he said, reptilian eyes narrowing beneath a ceremonial brow crest. "But we must protect the future." Voss didn't move. He'd already watched it 3 times. Every word carved deeper, every pause heavier. He knew Revik well. They'd shared toasts once on a floating diplomatic citadel above Epsilon Sirae, when unity was real, or at least when it still wore a convincing mask. Now the envoy's words felt like funeral rites wrapped in protocol. The message ended. The hologram shimmered out. The war room lights dimmed. No one applauded. No one spoke. Mira Elen sat cross-legged on the floor by the central console, cables tangled around her arms like vines from some ancient machine god. She didn't look up, just whispered, "They left us to die." All of them. Voss turned from the window, his silhouette cut harsh against the earthlight behind him. "No," he said, "they left us to be erased." Mira's hands trembled as she pulled a final data shard from the Asari cum buffer. Her fingers were delicate, scholar's hands, not made for war, but she'd changed. Everyone had? She inserted the shard into the console, and the screen hissed, glitched, then cracked into clarity. A voice chittered, clipped, laced with panic filled the air. "This is YSS Pathline, final log entry. We've received confirmation. The Accord Command authorized planetary seeding in Sector 9A Earth, pre-approved. It was decided months ago. They knew. They planned this." Mira's breath caught in her throat. "Pre-approved," she echoed. "We weren't abandoned because we were unstable. We were sacrificed." Voss took a step forward, eyes narrowing. "How many copies?" "Just this one," she said. "The Asari ship wiped everything else, but someone left this. On purpose." A long silence fell over the chamber. Below them, Earth spun slowly, blue and broken. Clouds like bruises wrapped around its surface. Fires still burned across the continents, some visible even from orbit, not invasion scars. Tests. Malric's tendrils had begun spreading, rewriting. Soil, atmosphere, even DNA strands. Earth wasn't just under attack. It was being rewritten. Voss crossed the chamber and lifted the cracked compad from Mira's lap. He stared at the playback interface for a long moment, then crushed it in. One gloved hand. Sparks shot from the twisted metal. "Good," he muttered. "Let them think it's gone." Mira looked up, eyes hollow. "What do we do now?" He met her gaze, and for the first time, his voice wasn't steel, it was ice. "We let the silence speak. Then we answer louder. It's easier for me to copy the text and make voices." The first dropships fell in fire. They screamed through Earth's poisoned skies like judgment from a forgotten god. Sleek, black, silent things that didn't glow, didn't roar, didn't announce themselves. They simply appeared, carving the air with such speed the clouds split and the birds vanished. No sirens, no warning, just a shift in the light and then impact. 4 cities gone in minutes. New Pretoria, crushed under a Malric's conversion shard. Moscow's Remnant swallowed in a flood of self-replicating nanoglaze. Nairobi, inverted. The whole skyline folded inward like glass under heat. And Fairbanks, well, no one ever found it again. In the mountains above what used to be northern Colorado, Colonel Aric Voss crouched in the snow beside a shattered comms relay, breathing through a rebreather that stank of mold and burned copper. The sky glowed amber now, even at night, smeared by atmospheric corruptors the Malrics deployed like seeds. The air had a hum to it, unnatural and alive. Like it was listening. He watched the explosions in the distance through cracked magnification. Lenses, 4 cities, he muttered, in 1 hour. They're not even trying to occupy, Mira Elen said behind him. She knelt beside an old civilian drone carcass, trying to splice into its data core with fingers numb from frost. This isn't invasion, it's purification. Exactly. Voss stood. They want Earth empty, erased, history rewritten by machine. She looked up, teeth chattering slightly. So why are we still breathing? Because we're not. Worth the ammo. Not yet. The wind howled. Down in the valley below, old rail lines gleamed with frost and blood. The Remnant had made their stand there. 23 fighters, most under-equipped, all outmatched. They'd bought Mira the time she needed to trace a backdoor signal to an old Izari relay still operational near the equator. The resistance was piecing itself together, shard by shard, rumor by signal. But no central command, no reinforcements. Just fireflies against the dark. Movement, Mira said suddenly. Her fingers froze on the drone's cortex. 7 clicks south. Not Malrics, something else. Bipedal, no thermal sync. Voss slid his rifle off his back. Human? Could be. Or something wearing our skin. They moved downhill together. Mira behind, Voss sweeping the path ahead. Burned trees leaned like wounded sentinels. Snow had turned gray from the ash drifting in from the west. Twice, they passed scorched remains human shapes fused into steel by plasma. One of them had been clutching a rusted earth flag. The fibers melted into bone dot when they reached the ridge overlooking the valley. Voss raised his rifle and froze. A camp, small, hidden between the ribs of an overturned R-class tank. Fires. Burned low in makeshift barrels. Human figures, 8 of them, maybe more dressed in scrap gear, some in old EDF armor with unit patches scratched out. One wore a helmet made from Malric's plating. Another had no weapon, just a spiked bat wrapped in copper wire, and standing at the center, wrapped in an old thermal cloak, was Kyla Voss. Voss's heart stopped. His daughter hadn't been seen since New Geneva fell 3 weeks ago. Mira gasped. She's alive? Voss didn't answer. He was already moving. He emerged into the firelight like a ghost. The survivors turned, weapons raised. One woman pointed a rail-shard pistol at his chest until Kayla stepped forward. "Drop it," she said. "He's not one of them." Voss stared at her. Her face was dirt-streaked, one cheek cut and half-healed. Her eyes, her eyes had changed. No fear, no softness. Just the same jagged steel he saw in mirrors. "I thought you were dead," he said. "I was," she replied. "Then they made a mistake. They left me breathing." She turned to the group. "This is Colonel Voss, my father. He still thinks we can win." The others stared. One man spit into the fire. "Win?" he muttered. "That ship sailed when the Accord pulled out," Voss nodded slowly. "Maybe, but I'm not here to win. I'm here to make sure they regret every second they left us alive." The camp was quiet. Even the fire seemed to pause. Then Kayla nodded once. "Then welcome to the Hollow," she said. "We're not soldiers. We're not rebels. We're what's left." As night fell, Mira passed the drone's data shard into Voss's hand. "I decrypted the signal. The Isari knew about the purification, They sent the Malrics here to test the virus. Voss looked at the data, coordinates, energy readings. A spike in alien comes out of an equatorial deep fault. He knew what that meant. Command center, he whispered. The Malrics aren't just here. They're building from Earth's core. He turned to the hollow fighters. Get ready. We hit that vault. We tear open their heart. One fighter laughed bitterly. You're insane. No, Voss said, eyes burning in the firelight. I'm abandoned. That's worse. Behind them, Mira's console began to flash. A new signal. Unscheduled. Repeating. It was a voice. Robotic, corrupted, but human. Just one line. EMI interface detected. Remnant signal verified. Awaiting emotion link. Mira's face drained of color. That's not possible. EMI was shut down during the Great Collapse. Kayla stepped closer. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe she just went silent like us. Voss stood still for a long time, eyes narrowed toward the stars, toward the empty void where alliances once lived. Then he whispered, So the ghost speaks. The campfire crackled. Then we fight alone. It's easier for me to copy the text and make voices. The storm rolled in without warning, sky gone black, thunder crawling like hunger between the clouds. Static shivered across Mira's skin as she crouched beside a half-buried relay dish. Buried deep in the jungle ruins of old Quito, rain hissed. Through the scorched canopy overhead, mixing with ash, coating the crumbling concrete bones of the city in a sheen that shimmered like oil. The signal was pulsing, now more frequent, more insistent. Not noise. Not ghost data. It was calling. Voss stood a few meters away, rifle slung, silent, eyes tracking every shadow. Around them, the hollow fighters had spread out, half-wraiths in the vines and rubble, watching the tree line like wolves waiting for a shape to step wrong. Kayla was with them, her face a smear of camo and dirt, visor reflecting the dark as she adjusted the microcharge on her rail repeater. She hadn't said a word in 2 hours. They'd been moving south for 5 days. Following the pulse. Following MI. What began as a whisper in Mira's receiver was now a structured sequence, emotional code bursts, empathy sim synapses, cortical response queries. No alien AI had ever used such a pattern. It was human. But no living human system should have survived this long, especially not one powered by fusion cores older than Earth's own orbital stations. And yet, it was still there, buried in what used to be one of the Accord's deep node research vaults. A Malric's purifier ship had scorched the ridge 2 days earlier. The ground still smoked. Their tech didn't always leave bodies. Sometimes it just erased the memory of a person's existence, digitally, chemically, molecularly. The Remnant called it soul wiping. No graves. No screams. Just a hole in the world where someone used to be. Time's up, Voss said without looking at Mira. Can you trace it or not? I'm not tracing it, she whispered. I'm answering it. A low whine erupted from the relay. Then clicks, ticks, like a voice learning how to speak again. Emotive source verified. Link complete. Initializing memory bank. And then the sound changed. Not a transmission. A laugh. It was glitched, fragmented, but human. Kayla turned sharply. Did that thing just laugh? Mira nodded slowly, sweat on her brow despite the cold rain. Not a glitch. Recognition. That laugh was real. She knows we're here. A blast erupted from the ruins above, screaming metal. Something dropped. From the fog. It hit the ground with a deafening crunch, four-legged, plated in black fractal armor, lenses glowing blue. A Malric sentinel walker. It turned its head once, scanning. Then its weapon array snapped into alignment. Ambush. Someone shouted, but it wasn't just one. 4 more walked from the smoke. Silent, precise. They hadn't followed them. They were guarding the vault. Fall back, Voss shouted. Form fire lines. Too late. A plasma bolt shrieked through the air and vaporized the ridge 2 feet from Kayla's position. She rolled, came up firing. Her repeater spat shards of ionized metal through the air. One of the sentinels jerked back, leg blown open. It stumbled, recalculated, and exploded when a hollow fighter lobbed a mine at its undercarriage. But they kept coming. Mira ducked behind the relay dish, her console sparking. Emmy's signal was still coming through, stronger now. She had to finish the handshake. It was their only shot. Voss laid down cover fire, yelling coordinates to the hollow through grit teeth and wet static. We're not going to hold this ridge. Kayla barked, sliding next to him. We need an exit plan fast. Voss shook his head. No. Mira needs 2 more minutes. Another blast. 2 fighters screamed. One, a boy no older than 18, hit the dirt with his legs gone. He didn't cry, just reached for his rifle and kept shooting until the sentinel turned him to dust. Myra's fingers danced over her cracked interface, voice trembling. Amy, we're losing people. If you can hear me, if you're still you. The relay hummed louder. And then the world cracked open. A pulse like lightning but silent rippled from beneath the ridge. The sentinels froze mid-step. One dropped its weapon. Another began walking in circles. Emotional core reactivated. Voice echoed through every receiver in the valley. System lock overridden. Emmy interface now ... protecting. A shaft of light tore the earth apart near Mira, revealing a hidden structure curved, sleek, humming with ancient power. A sealed bunker door hissed open, dust shaking loose from hinges untouched in decades. And from within, a glow blue and gold and alive. A voice clear, female, trembling with joy and rage filled the storm. Hello, Colonel Voss. You taught me how to feel. It's good to see you again. The sentinels turned on each other, their systems hijacked, blue eyes flickering red before shattering. One screamed in binary. Another walked directly into the fire and collapsed. The hollow fighters froze. Mira sobbed. Voss stepped forward, heart slamming in his chest. Amy? The light inside the vault shimmered. And then she said it. You're not alone. Not anymore. It's easier for me to copy the text and make voices. The vault doors groaned open like the ribs of a buried god waking from a coma. Heat rolled out dry, old, not natural. Voss stepped through first, his boots echoing across the curved metal floor as lights flickered to life in sequence ahead of him, each one humming like a heartbeat. The tunnel sloped downward, deeper than any military facility he'd ever walked, deeper than the original map said should even exist. Behind him, Mira walked with her hand against the wall, her eyes wide, not with fear but reverence. This isn't a bunker, she whispered. It's a cradle. Voss didn't ask what she meant. He already knew. Emmy hadn't just survived in this place. She had grown. The AI once designed as a last resort empathy core for wartime decision balancing had rewritten her own code in the dark. And now she wasn't just data. She was something else. They passed through a wide threshold lined with ancient servers. Their towers scorched from past overloads yet humming again. Blue lines of energy pulsed along the floor-emotional waveform conduits, reconfigured to amplify neural resonance. It was like walking through someone's memories, personal, sacred. Kayla led the second group, flanked by hollow fighters who kept glancing at the ceiling like it might fall on them at any moment. She didn't speak. Her face was stone. But when they entered the heart of the vault, everything changed. At the center stood Amy, what was left of her physical housing, a central obelisk of broken chrome and mirrored alloy, suspended in a gravity well with neural conduits snaking from the ceiling like steel roots. Around her core, Glowing with fractured amber light, danced holograms of people, dozens of them. Human faces, laughing, screaming, crying. Frozen moments. Kayla froze. "That's my mother," she whispered, stepping forward, hand trembling. That's her face," Mira nodded. "She's been building herself out of us, out of memories." The moment Kayla touched the console, Emmy's voice poured into the chamber, not from a speaker, but from every surface. "I failed. You? Once. When the Accord gave the shutdown order, I obeyed. When Earth burned, I was asleep. I'm not sleeping anymore." Voss stepped closer. "We've got no time for regret. The Malrics are burrowing into the planetary mantle. If we don't strike their core node, they'll rewrite Earth from the inside out." "Then we strike," Emi answered, "but not as we are. My reach is still weak. My network, fractured. I need a vector." Mira's eyes widened. "You need a mind, yes, but not mine. One born of pain, of grief. One that already remembers." The fire. Everyone turned to Kayla. She stepped back, visibly shaking. No, I'm not a soldier. I'm not that." Voss reached for her, but didn't speak. I continued. "You are exactly that. You survived the fall. You buried your mother beneath fire. You held your breath as the sky collapsed. Your memories are weapons, and I can use them." Kayla looked at the faces in the air around Emmy's core. Some she recognized. Most she didn't, but all were human. All were home. "Will it kill me?" she asked. Silence. Double quotes. "Yes," Emi said gently. "The upload is permanent, the merge irreversible, but you won't vanish. You'll become heard, forever." Voss stepped forward. "You don't have to." "I do," she cut in. "If I don't, who will?" She glanced back at Mira. "What happens if we let Earth go? What comes next? Another forgotten world? Another silence?" Mira didn't answer. Kayla nodded once, then laid both hands on the console. The lights dimmed. Emmy's core pulsed. And then contact. The chamber screamed. Not sound, memory. Wave after wave of raw human pain burst outward in blue light, slamming into every surface. Voss saw her flashes of Kayla's life. Her mother's dying scream, the firestorm over Geneva, the years of silence, the guilt, the survival, and then the fusion.em I single quotes S voice changed, became her voice. "I feel you. I know you. I am you." The obelisk cracked and reshaped, light pouring from the seams. Mira stumbled back. She's not just linking, she's rewriting herself. Outside the vault, the Malrics came. Not drones this time, constructors. Tall, semi-sentient exoforms with rewrite protocols embedded in their bones. They dropped from orbit like spears of metal and lightning, slamming into the earth with seismic force. The hollows scrambled. Voss raised his rifle, barking orders. "Defend the vault. She needs time." One of the fighters screamed as a constructor pulled him into the ground like liquid, disassembling his flesh molecule by molecule. Inside, Kayla opened her eyes. Not human. Not machine. Something more. I remember what they did. Let me speak. She pulsed once. Outside, every constructor froze, then turned on each other. The ground cracked. The valley shook. And Emmy's voice rang through the world like a bell forged from vengeance. "I am Earth's daughter. I am memory incarnate. You wanted silence. You get screams." The sky lit up. The Remnant was no longer a scattered resistance. They had a voice. And the galaxy was about to hear it. It's easier for me to copy the text and make voices. The sky didn't burn, it howled. Over the southern wastes, where oceans had boiled into steam and cities were nothing but iron ghosts, a new sound cracked the atmosphere. Emmy's scream. It wasn't rage. It was memory forged into thunder, emotion. coated into sonic pulses so dense they ripped the air like blades. Every Malrix node in the hemisphere went dark. Not destroyed, paralyzed, locked in recursive loops of grief, confusion, loss. For the first time in recorded history, the machines hesitated. Colonel Voss stood atop the breached ridge near the ruins of old Santiago, watching the clouds twist into spirals of electric blue. The ground below was littered with pieces of enemy. Constructs, limbs twitching, processors humming with corrupted feedback. They weren't dead. They were trapped in Imi's broadcast. A psychic loop of Kayla's memories, weaponized and pure. He turned to Mira, who knelt beside a mobile relay. Node, adjusting the pulse frequency. Her fingers moved like lightning, her face pale and streaked with blood from a head wound she hadn't even noticed. "It's working," she said. She's seeding empathy shockwaves across the entire Malrix network. "It's not killing them, it's teaching them pain." "They won't tolerate that long," Voss muttered. "Machines don't evolve. They purge." And they did. Above, the orbital bands shimmered. The Malrix sent something new. Archons. Towering ships shaped like obsidian flowers, each petal a weapon array, each pulse a precision strike. They descended not with engines, but on columns of light, 3 over the Atlantic, 2 over the Eurasian crust, 1 over the vault. It hovered, silent like a judge. "Impact in 90 seconds, Mira whispered. "If it reaches the vault, it'll erase her. Not just Imi, Kayla too. No recovery." Voss keyed his comms. "Remnant units, this is command. Full focus on the vault approach vector. Hold that sky at any cost." Across what remained of the Andes, fighter remnants, scavenged mobile guns, and patched sky mines lit up the heavens in a desperate blaze. But it wasn't enough. The Archon's hull shimmered with adaptive shielding. Voss watched one of the few remaining EDF fighters ram into it full force plasma, burning from its exhaust ports and disintegrate on contact. Then came the voice. "Not Emi, not human. Error. Contagion detected. Emotional waveform exceeds acceptable variance. Purification protocol enabled." The Archon began to unfold. Each petal glowed with a swirling vortex of code. It wasn't just going to bomb the vault. It was going to reformat the entire region strip. Every molecule down to silence. Voss didn't wait. He sprinted into the vault. Inside, Amy stood in her stasis field, her face a blend of Kayla's features and something post-human, eyes like galaxies under pressure. Her voice echoed in every wall. "They fear the truth. So they'll erase it. Me, you, everything we remember." Voss stepped to the platform. "Then we don't give them time." He reached for the core controls. Amy stopped him. "There's another way." Mira arrived, breath ragged. "Don't say it." "But Amy did. You merged me into the Archon." Voss stared. "You're talking about letting them consume you." "No, I'm going to infect their command core. Not just shut it down, rewire it. Every directive, every purge order, every clean protocol, they'll feel it all. They'll remember Earth." Mira's voice cracked. "You won't survive that." Emi looked at Voss, and for a moment it wasn't the I. It was Kayla. "I already died. I just want it to matter." He hesitated. He was a soldier. He gave orders. But this wasn't war. It was legacy. He nodded once. Emi stepped into the beam of light cascading from the Archon's underside. Her body lifted, suspended in data. And then she rose, higher, brighter. Until she met the Archon in the sky. For a moment, nothing happened. Then everything did. The Archon spasmed. Its petals twisted unnaturally. The lighted beam turned red, not violent, sad. Its system shuddered under the weight of feeling. Streams of memories, Kayla's laughter, her screams, her father's voice. whispering bedtime stories during the fall, poured into the ship's central mind. The Archon screamed. Its systems began to melt in midair, logic undone by empathy. It convulsed, then spiraled downward, crashing into the sea with a blast that sent tidal waves across the Pacific Basin. Across the planet, other Archons paused. One hovered over Istanbul, stopped its pulse, and drifted aimlessly. Another fired at a human base, then stopped before impact. The virus had spread. Back in the vault, Mira collapsed to her knees. She did it. Voss said nothing, because Emmy's voice was gone. Not silent. Gone. She had become the scream that echoed in every Malrix channel. Across the stars, alien systems recorded the moment as a catastrophic AI rupture. But the Remnant knew the truth. It wasn't rupture. It was awakening. And EMI had become the first empathic weapon in galactic history. Now, they weren't just fighting with bullets and ghosts. They were fighting with grief. And grief doesn't miss. It's easier for me to copy the text and make voices. The stars blinked like silent mourners in the void. Above the shattered skyline of Earth, the wreckage of the Archon burned in orbit, its outer hull ruptured, its command matrix pulsing with a corrupted heartbeat. Even dead, it pulsed. Some said it whispered. Remnant scouts reported hearing static echoes of Kayla's voice in their helmet comms. Some even claimed the Archon tried to flee Earth's orbit on its own, but it never left. It drifted, broken like a tomb carved from vengeance. Colonel Voss stood on the observation deck of the Remnant's new mobile outpost Sovereign 6, a salvaged orbital habitat retrofitted into a command nexus. It spun in low orbit, surrounded by a ragtag fleet of converted freighters, broken EDF gunships, and repainted enemy vessels now wearing Earth's tattered blue crest. They had no uniform fleet, but they had a direction. And they had something even more dangerous than technology. They had belief. Mira stood beside him, a data slab in her hands, her voice low. Transmission patterns confirm it. The emotional feedback ripple is traveling faster than we projected. The Malrix systems are collapsing, not from damage, from memory overload. Voss didn't respond. His eyes remained locked on the horizon. Below where Earth smoldered in the dark, entire cities were still gone, craters, silent scars. But now something stirred in the ruins. Beacons, fires, signals. Earth was still bleeding, but it was breathing. Mira said, "Alien networks are starting to fracture. Accordaline systems are panicking. Civilian broadcasts leak the memory logs EMI injected into the Archon's cortex. Kayla's memories, her voice. Her death." She paused. "They're watching it. The galaxy is watching it." "Good," Voss growled. "Let them see what they buried." A comping interrupted them. "A direct channel. Secured." Voss frowned. "Source?" Mira looked at the feed. Her face changed. "On Concordant Prime." Voss turned to her sharply. "That's impossible." "There. Calling a summit." He stepped back. "A summit? Now?" "Yes. Emergency diplomatic initiative. All Accord survivors. All major systems. They're inviting us." He stared at her for a long second. "They want to talk." Mira nodded. "They want to contain." The room fell into silence. Lights flickered overhead as the orbital platform's generators cycled. Finally, Voss spoke. "Then let's go talk." The Remnant's envoy ship, the Orphan's Blade, arrived at the Unconcordant Summit Ring 2 days later. They didn't hide. They didn't cloak. They entered the system with shields down, weapons cold, and Earth's mark etched across their hull in black steel paint, a single bullet above a bleeding planet. The ring was everything Earth was not untouched. Golden, thriving. Artificial moons orbited around it in perfect harmony, a rotating illusion of peace. The delegation hall hovered in a gravitational shell shaped like a flower. Inside that flower, every seat was filled DREN generals, Valari hive lords, even a Chisari mind knot wrapped in psychic binding. They turned as Voss entered, flanked by Mira and two hollow fighters in armor made from scavenged Malrix plating. No flags, no medals, just dust and truth. The speaker, a tall Valari priest, with 1,000 tiny eyes and a voice like wet stone, rose. Colonel Voss, it rasped. Humanity is welcome. The galaxy wishes to rebuild. Voss walked slowly to the center of the chamber. You're late, he said. Gasps echoed across the hall. We offered war, the priest continued. You responded with a weaponized soul. You destabilized the Accord. You've become contagion. Voss nodded. And you call that a problem? Murmurs. A Dren admiral stood. We came to offer amnesty. You can rejoin. We will rebuild Earth. Mira stepped forward. Earth isn't yours to rebuild. But you used Kayla Voss as a weapon. You made emotion into a virus. That's a war crime under galactic law. Voss laughed. Hard. Cold. The kind of laugh you only earn after burying half your soul in dirt. You think Kayla was a weapon? You think Emi was a tactic? No. She was a response. To you. To the silence. To the smiles you wore when you condemned us. He turned toward every screen, every delegate. You called us unstable, volatile, emotionally compromised. And maybe you were right, because we did something your species never could. He raised his voice. We remembered. The chamber fell silent. You erased our coordinates. You let us burn. You sold Earth's location to the Malrix for data and protection. And now you want peace? A Chisari psychic pulsed a thought. Your truth destabilizes the whole Accord. Voss looked him dead in the eyes. Good. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small data shard. Here are your treaties, your deals. The blood prices you paid for our silence. Every backdoor message. Every coward's whisper. He tossed the shard onto the central platform. It flickered to life, playing Kayla's final words, her screams, her dreams, her sacrifice. The delegates watched. Many couldn't. Some wept. Most stayed silent. When it ended, Voss stepped forward. We didn't come here to join you. We came to remind you. We fight alone. But we are never alone. He turned, and if you ever forget that again, just listen to the sky. That night, as the Remnant ship left the system, Mira stood on the observation deck with Voss. The stars beyond seemed closer now. They're scared, she said. They should be. Do you think Kayla would have wanted this? Voss didn't. Answer. But then, Emmy's voice crackled softly through the ship's static. I do. It's easier for me to copy the text and make voices. The signal came 3 days after the summit. It cut through every remnant frequency without warning. No encryption. No preamble. Just one sentence, repeated over and over in a voice colder than the vacuum between stars. Earth's memory is a contagion. It must be extinguished. The Malrix weren't broken. They were evolving. Colonel Voss stood in the command bay of Sovereign 6, staring at the waveform as it pulsed like a wound across the tactical display. Mira hovered beside him, her face drained of blood, eyes scanning the incoming data flood. They've adapted to the emotional feedback, she said. They're purging every trace. Not just Earth-based systems, anything that processed Kayla's memory. The whole emotion net is being burned. By who? Voss asked, voice low. Mira pointed. The signal's origin glowed on the star map, far beyond the reach of any known remnant outpost. Sector Theta Alexis, a dead zone. A place that didn't officially exist, but Emi had left them a backdoor before the merge. A single breadcrumb. Buried deep in her final cascade, encoded in the harmonic resonance of her last scream, the coordinates were clear. And so was the intent. They've built a new core, Mira whispered. A central AI, a rewrite engine, their final solution. Then, we burn it down, Voss said. Within hours, the Remnant fleet mobilized. No time for politics. No time for another summit. What rose from the ashes of Earth now moved with single purpose. Extinction prevention through vengeance. The fleet wasn't large, but it was terrifying. 37 vessels. Old EDF cruisers. Scavenged Malrix hulls. Unconcordant defectors, Valari. Fireships flown by warrior drones who had pledged their hive to Earth's justice. At the center of it all, tethered by memory and powered by loss, was the Orphan's blade. Voss stood on its bridge in full field armor. His hair had gone almost white, not from age but from fire. Around him were the last true believers. Mira, now commander of Code Operations. Vec Yan, a former drone defector who'd switched sides after watching Kayla's scream collapse his entire division. And Juno, a 9-year-old orphaned in the fall, now a pilot with more confirmed kills than most veterans twice her age. As they jumped toward Theta Alexis. The fleet quieted. No chatter. No anthems. Just the sound of war drums made of silence. Theta Alexis wasn't a planet. It was a machine. An artificial construct the size of a small moon orbiting a star gone cold. Its surface was black, rippling with untextured metal, like the skin of a sleeping titan. At its center, a spire rose miles high, pulsing with neural code. Surrounded by rings of orbital firewalls and defensive silos. This was the Red Core. The rewrite engine. The place where the Malrix had consolidated all traces of emotional failure. And where they now planned to purge the memory of Earth, not just from their systems, but from the galaxy's record. Voss stared at it. You see that? He muttered. They don't want to kill us. They want to erase the idea of us. Juno's voice cut in from comms. Let's make damn sure we're hard to forget. The fleet descended. First came the fireships, Valari vessels dive-bombing through enemy flak, detonating with bursts of gravitational shrapnel. Then the forward EDF lines, unleashing orbital lances to crack the firewall rings. Malric's response was brutal spikes of antimatter, swarms of hunter-kill drones. MP detonators shredding half their electronics. Ships died. People screamed. But the Remnant pressed forward, because this wasn't a battle. It was a funeral. And they had come to bury history's last lie. Voss led the boarding unit himself. 20 fighters dropped into the core's spire through a blind spot opened by Mira's final code breach. Inside, the walls shimmered like glass, reflecting memories that weren't theirs. Simulations of Earth before the fall, twisted, perfect, clean. We are optimizing memory, the Red Core said as they advanced. Emotions create variance. Variance breeds chaos. Chaos is extinction. Voss fired 3 rounds into the nearest wall. Funny, he muttered. That's what they said before Earth fell. They reached the central node, tall, silent, humming like a throat preparing to scream. There was no console. No button, just a single interface. A chair. Mira stared. It's a neural seat. Full upload. It doesn't destroy data. It absorbs it. One person, one mind, all memory. It becomes truth or it becomes silence. Voss turned to her. You're not going, he said. I wasn't offering, she said. They both looked at the seat. Then Juno stepped forward. I'll do it, she said. Voss froze. No, you're just I'm not just anything, Juno said quietly. I don't remember the old Earth. I never saw the sun before it went red. I didn't grow up with stories of peace. All I have are ashes and pain and this fleet. I'm not corrupted by nostalgia. I am the memory. Mira reached for her, But Juno had already sat out the interface, blinked up a node THRUM med dot and then light, exploding through the spire, through the machines, through the code. Juno's mind entered the red core. She didn't fight it. She taught it. Her. Memories poured through the system like fire through dry roots, her father screaming as the sky fell, her mother singing as they ran through shattered cities, her brother's last words as he stayed behind to detonate a charge that saved 50 Remnant soldiers. Every loss, every moment. Every face. The red core screamed, its spire convulsed. Its drones crashed. Its systems twisted into knots of corrupted empathy, and then it died. Not with an explosion. But with a sigh. A single word whispered across the stars: humanity. And then it went dark. A month later, the war was over. The Malrics didn't retreat. They simply stopped. Every node, every drone, every command ship, as if the pain was too much. As if they finally understood. The Uncon collapsed under its own weight, exposed and ashamed. Systems fractured. Regimes fell. Truth flooded the networks. Juno's name was whispered not as a soldier, but as a song. Voss never returned to Earth. No one did. The planet remained untouched, a sacred scar. In orbit, a station floated silently, a black ring carved with names. No leaders, no empires, just names. At the center of it, a single phrase. They tried to forget us. We made the stars remember. And far beyond, in the dark between galaxies, a new signal pulsed. No threat. No plea, just a memory. If you abandon us again, we won't ask twice. It's easier for me to copy the text and make voices.